morning or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Charlene O'Hanlon, moderator for today's event, and I welcome you. As always, we have a great event on tap, but before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items we need to go over. First of all, today's event is being recorded, so if you miss any or all of the event, you will have the opportunity to access it later on. Following today's webinar, we will be sending out an email that contains a link to access the webinar on demand. And we are taking questions from the audience. So if at any time during today's presentation you have a question for either of our speakers, please don't wait, don't hesitate, just use your GoToWebinar control panel and submit your question, and we'll try to get to as many as we can near the end of today's webinar. Okay, also at the end of today's webinar, we are going to be doing a drawing for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. So please stick around. Hopefully you will be one of our 4 lucky winners. All right, with that, let's go ahead and kick off today's webinar, which is Safe and Secure Applications, Deploying in a Cloud or Multi-Cloud Environment. Our speakers today are Rebecca Whittle, who is the Solutions Engineer at CircleCI, and Travis DuPuy, who is the Product Evangelist at xMatters. Guys, thanks so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome, awesome. Well, before we get started with the presentation, I know that we have 2 polling questions we want to send out to the audience. So here's the first one. If the audience could participate here, do you have a service that runs on premises, in the cloud, in a multi-cloud configuration, or in a hybrid cloud configuration? You can go ahead and make your selection. And our speakers today just kind of want to know, get a feeling for where you are right now in your multi-cloud journey, and this will help them as they do the presentation. All right, looks like we've got a healthy number of folks who have replied, so I'm going to go ahead and close this particular polling question out in 3, 2, 1. All right, so here are the results of the first one. Looks like the majority of folks have a service that runs in the cloud rather than multi-cloud or hybrid cloud, but those are the dead even seconds.
Interesting.
Very, very interesting. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do the second polling question here. And here it comes to you now. What is your main deployment tool? You can select from Make, on-premises based applications, cloud-based application, or other. So go ahead and make your selection, and we will take a look at the results very, very soon. And again, a real quick reminder while we are waiting, as we get into the presentation, if you have a question at any time during the presentation, you can go ahead and use your GoToWebinar control panel and submit your question. You do not have to wait for the question and answer period. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and close out this poll in 3, 2, 1. And here are the results. Looks like the majority of folks are using cloud-based applications for their main deployment tools.
Well,
you guys
make out there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Awesome. Okay, so here we go. We're back. So Rebecca, I know you are going to get us started, so I'm going to take myself off camera, put myself on mute, and let you get right back into your presentation.
Thanks, Charlene.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlene. Thank you so much. Again, like she said, I'm Rebecca Whittle, a Solutions Engineer at CircleCI.
And I'm Travis DuPuy, at the Product Evangelist at xMatters.
Awesome. Hey, Travis.
Hey.
So we wanted to kind of give you a quick overview of the agenda that we have for today's webinar. And we're really going to just be talking about that software development lifecycle. And we know that it's all combined in one, but for this webinar, we wanted to split it out into 2 visual aspects. So we have the deploy and the operation. I will be talking about the deploy side and showing you how CircleCI can really ease that process of building, testing, and deploying your applications.
So then once we see the deployments, then I will talk about the operational aspects. So detecting, alerting, remediating, and then resolving issues.
Awesome. So with that, I am going to go ahead and just hop into the demo and show you how CircleCI really works to ease that build, test, and deploy lifecycle.
Sweet.
So hopefully you guys can all see my screen. right now we are in CircleCI's UI. So we are looking at a workflow that I have configured inside of my config YAML file. And so right now we can see that we have a few jobs running all before we actually deploy. This first job is just a security job. It is testing to make sure that we don't have any vulnerable dependencies, make sure our code base hasn't changed a lot, and just, again, giving us that assurity of a secure and safe application before we begin building. Once that passes, we jump right into the build job. Here, we are actually building our application, checking out the code, and starting to string it up. Once that passes and everything's built, we can begin to test it. And that's what this job is doing.
Hey, Rebecca, what kind of things do you see in these test cases? What do people do in this step?
Yeah, good question. So we see a lot of different varieties of tests. Probably most common though with our customers is to utilize unit tests. So depending on the application that you're running, if you're running like a lot of Node or React stuff, we have a lot of Mocha tests that we see. And then obviously if you're running Python or other stuff, we see PyTests. So a lot of unit tests can really make the customers feel safe and secure with whatever they're building and make sure those tests pass.
So this being, a talk mostly around the multi-cloud and hybrid cloud, how do those test cases kind of change, or how are they different in when you're running a multi-cloud or hybrid cloud environment?
Yeah, good question. And yeah, again, since we are talking about multi-cloud, you do have different vulnerabilities that can come to the surface from that. So something we see are end-to-end tests, and we definitely recommend that. So making sure that you are testing your application from start to finish through that is imperative to make sure that you have a secure deploy. So like the other week, I was just helping a customer work through setting up their Selenium end-to-end tests, and they were able to bring in browser tools and get Chrome driver going, again, to have that safety of knowing that their application from start to finish is good to go. So really give you that assurity. And once that test case has passed, we are then moved on to preparing for that deployment.
So I see, is that DigitalOcean, Google Container Repository, and then AWS? So you're actually building and pushing those Docker images?
Yeah, we are. So I'm going to go ahead and just click into this job. And so we're going to be taken into the job level view in CircleCI's UI. And when I scroll down, we can actually see that right here, I'm actually able to build that Docker image for the Google Container Registry. So we're building that image, and then we're going ahead and just pushing that image all the way up to GCR. So yeah, we definitely streamline that for you and make that a lot easier for you.
Does that also include a Docker Hub?
Yeah, great question. We do interact with Docker Hub very easily. So you can pull images down from there, push them up. And also we have pre-baked images from CircleCI. So you can always find us on Docker Hub as well.
Nice.
So yeah, once these have passed and our preparation for deployment is good to go, we are taken into this request approval job right here.
So this is where you reach out to xMatters to go track down a person, right? To do that approval?
Yeah, so here is where exactly we are going ahead and interacting with xMatters. We are posting to their API and trying to find how we can track down someone to come in and give us an approval for this workflow.
Nice.
As you can see here, this is where we're actually interacting with xMatters. I'm going to go back to the workflow.
Oh, I see. So that's the pause icon there. So I see the green check, and then you got a pause, and then I'm assuming that those other three steps, those other three jobs haven't been executed. Is that what I'm seeing?
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So we have this pause icon because technically this workflow is on hold, right? We've checked the security, we've built our application, we've tested it, we've gotten green checks, so we feel good about that. We've prepared our application for this deployment. And now we're interacting with xMatters to hold off before we actually deploy.
Okay, wait. You want to hold your deployment? Like, this is an automated process. You've obviously done some work to get this automated process to work, and now you're just inserting a human into this process.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we're doing. What we're doing is we're actually just like creating a scenario where we want to pause, right? We're going very fast. We want things to be deployed. We want them to go out, but sometimes it's almost better in retrospect to actually pause and slow down for a second before you just deploy. It gives you that human interaction of someone's eyes have to look back over everything, make sure everything's good to go. If there was a scenario where something is actually not in the code base as expected, we can prepare for that as well and actually, totally redo a pipeline if need be. So it is actually very helpful and useful to slow down that process. I kind of think of it as like, if you're in a car and you're going really, really fast, it's good to have your seatbelt on, right? It adds that sense of safety in this speedy process that you're in. Same with software development lifecycle and that deployment.
Yeah, safety and security, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We talk about that at xMatters. We do the incident response aspects of the operations. But we build out these automation processes, and then a lot of times it's like, why would you insert a human into this process? But really, there are cases where it makes sense. You get some information to a human so that they can do kind of higher level things, and then put the really kind of low level or toil work down to an automated system.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, it's not always just for the safety and security, even though that's usually why we recommend having these approval gates here. Sometimes you just want to pause and wait for a certain time to deploy your application. Oddly enough, I've seen customer scenarios where that does occur, where you're actually wanting to hold off and deploy your application at a certain time. And so you actually have that flexibility to do so with this approval gate.
Cool.
Yeah. So with that, we've connected to xMatters. We feel like we're ready to go. So let's go ahead and check my email and see, oh, look, let's see. Approval request for CircleCI is gonna go. Let's open this up. And as you can see, I've actually gotten an email from xMatters, right? And I have a lot of information in this email. I have the author, I have the project, I have the branch, even all the way down to that commit ID. And this context really gives you that confidence in knowing what's going on and that easy ability to also go back and track it down. So, I feel like we're good to go. What do you think, Travis? Do you think I should approve it?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
Interestingly enough, also, we're on the xMatters side, we're also auditing, who was notified at what time, and then who actually did the response. So you can kind of get that audit trail, if it's not stored in CI, in CircleCI.
Yeah, that's awesome. That probably eases a lot of like who and what if something does go awry. So you have that. That's awesome.
Yeah, the security guys really like that.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. As you can see, we have a response sent, and I could even add in a comment if I wanted to. I think we're good to go, but it looks like xMatters has gotten that. So if I go back into my workflow right here, we can actually see that approval gate has now been approved. You can see my little image here. Some people have actually commented that they love that. So it's a quick, easy, visible of, oh, this person approved it. So that's really convenient. And now all of our deployments are kicked off.
Yeah, so it's actually deploying into DigitalOcean, AWS, and GKE. But it seems like you're deploying to all these different environments. Why all the overhead? Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, well, Travis, clouds are overhead. I've been wanting to make that pun. But yeah, so it can seem like a lot overhead, but I think I would counter with, don't you want overhead when your application is so large and you have so many customers relying on your product and all of these dependencies? I feel like overhead is actually what you need. You want that safety. A few things that multi-cloud really offers you in this architecture is, it gives you that flexibility. So you don't have vendor lock-in. It's 2020. No one really wants vendor lock-in. You have options there with however that looks. It also adds in, again, that security aspect. Sometimes there are different permissions from different cloud environments that you want to be able to easily respect with your data and that management. And then also, if you have customers across the globe and there's different latency times, you can ease that you can ease all of that through having a multi-cloud environment.
Yeah, but I guess once you get the pipelines, set up, you've done the grunt work to get it, get it set up. It actually seems like a pretty straightforward process. Commit to deploy, to approve, to approve to deploy.
Yeah, it does. CircleCI really just eases all of that for you so that it's not as strenuous, and you can also get, again, that ease of visibility and seeing where you're at every stage and know that you have the confidence in when it deploys.
Totally.
So now that
we
have,
sorry, question. So we've deployed to a couple different cloud environments, but how would this change in like a a hybrid cloud environment?
Yeah, great question. So you would want to definitely take into consideration different securities and dependencies for your own firewall or private cloud offerings. So you might have to reconstruct a few things there. CircleCI can work with you on your hybrid cloud deployments. So we would love to help ease that and all of those sometimes security regulations that come into play with that.
Yeah.
But now that we've deployed, we're going to go ahead and go into our little dice game. I'm going to refresh it. There's our application right here. It's been deployed. And let's see, if I roll the dice, you rolled a 5 and a 3. That's awesome.
Good job.
Oh, thank you. But it looks like we actually get an error. Error occurred while trying to complete request. So it looks like it's working, but at the same time, we're getting this error. That's odd.
Well, I think it's a good opportunity to transition into the operational aspects of multi-cloud and cloud deployments.
I agree.
So let me jump over and show my screen.
Awesome.
So Rebecca, hopefully you're seeing my operation slide.
I am.
And our amazing UX work here.
Yeah, graphic design.
Yeah. So just to refresh, we've talked about the kind of deployment phase of the development lifecycle. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the detecting, alerting, remediating, and resolution aspects of it. As Rebecca mentioned, these are actually intertwined, and my amazing, again, UX skills showing, that it is kind of a circle. You might have code that you have to change because of the issues that you found. So then, of course, that goes back to your deploy. But one of the critical things to do around detection is these SLOs and SLIs, right? So Rebecca was able to show the website, and the website came up, but then clicking the button, threw some errors. So technically the website's up, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is actually functional, right? So it's critical to get these service level indicators and then service level objectives correct, and spend some time really thinking about what are the things you want to look at. The Google Handbook is a great resource for this kind of thing, the SRE book, and they lay out the 4 golden signals: so latency, errors, traffic, and saturation. I like to think of it as let's monitor. Anyways, so latency, is network traffic between the different services, front end and back end, or back end and database, or between the different microservices. Errors, we saw one example, but if you think about large scale applications that are running at scale, so Google and Twitter, for example, alerting on one error is really going to crush your alerting infrastructure. So what you want to look at is maybe rates of errors. So if there's a spike in the rate of errors, then that's what you want to look at, as opposed to an actual absolute number of errors. Similarly with traffic, just having a standard traffic number, can cause you to error when maybe it's not really that critical. And then also thinking about scaling. So Black Friday situations for sure, or launch of a new game or something. That's where you want to look at the traffic on your application. And then saturation. I think the book gives an example of a hard drive, that is plugging along just fine at 85, 90% full, which is fine. That's not an error condition, or that's not an alerting condition. But if it then starts ticking upward in increased rate, then that's when you want to now let's start alerting, getting somebody taking care of this. So I'm going to transition over to the other aspects of the demo. So here we are. We've got the dice game. We've instrumented using Datadog. So, so here's our dashboard. One of these errors, it actually recovered because I talked too much, but it did generate an alert in Datadog. So
Travis, I see that you're looking at the error, and although it did recover, we can all see that it did trigger that rate threshold reached. I guess, what considerations would people need to have just around that detection and the overall monitoring when in this multi-cloud environment?
Yeah, of course. The issue is just making sure that your infrastructure is feeding the right metrics into the monitoring applications or infrastructure. So, for example, Google does a pretty good job of working with the other cloud providers. So you can deploy, it used to be called StackDriver agent into those environments, which then lets you feed those metrics into one central place. Seems like Amazon doesn't play as well, but there's other tools. So we like to talk about third-party tools that are independent of the cloud providers, because you can they do a really good job of providing the necessary agents or infrastructure or libraries to monitor your application and then feed those metrics into one source. And then, because what you really care about is the application, and then the secondary pieces are, okay, is the problem just in one data center, or is it across the entire application?
Yeah, that's imperative. And it also sounds like it also helps, again, prevent that vendor lock-in as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can pull out a different data center. You're tired of Azure and want to move to DigitalOcean. So yeah, that's an option. Forgot my desktop here. So this is my alert. This is an email alert. We also have, of course, mobile, SMS, and voice. But the things I want to point out here are the metrics from Datadog. So kind of similar to the email that we saw from the approval, we've got the initial trigger or signal from Datadog. But I've actually added some enrichment information. So we've pulled in, for example, the last commit and deployment information, maybe from GitHub and CircleCI, so that when I get this alert, I have a little bit of context around what happened or how it might be related.
That's probably really nice. I was going to say, it's probably really, really nice to have that context so that it's easier to work with.
Yeah, exactly. So within xMatters, aside from just on-call schedules and notifications, we can build out a pretty extensive workflow to, use automation, right? Use some of the tools, use the APIs to build out a workflow, notification workflow. So over here on the left, we are receiving the signal from Datadog. We're gonna grab some additional information. The signal is pretty paltry, actually, from Datadog, so we have to go get some more information about the event. As I mentioned, we get the commit and then maybe some build details from CircleCI. But then we're going to post some information. In this example, we're going to post some information to Teams as well as Slack, and then generate the event, track down the on-call resource, and then deliver some notifications.
Okay, so from this workflow, what I'm understanding is we're getting a lot of context from what's going on. Why is that useful?
Yeah. So I like to picture, poor SRE is on calls 2 o'clock in the morning, gets woken up by all the devices, going off, still kind of groggy, and gets the alert, but just wish that there was a little bit of extra information. So then he sits down, fires up his computer, and goes to get that information. But if he had maybe had that information in the initial alert, then he can make a better decision based on the context surrounding the alert. In this case, deployment and build information.
Yeah, and probably gets to the resolution faster as well.
Yeah, actually, I looked it up. So you think about an application with 5 nines of availability, that gives you 5 minutes per year of downtime. So literally any minute you can shave off will help you with your SLOs.
Yeah, good. That's good to know. And then also in your workflow, what I also see are, so you're pinging Meets and also Slack, which I guess that's 2 applications. Why would you want to do 2 different applications like that?
So a lot of times in larger organizations, you have kind of, sometimes you have the silo effect. and you might have just
Yeah.
information. And so development engineering is like aware, oh my gosh, yeah, our DICE app is throwing errors. We got to really, swarm on this. We're collaborating, we're getting things working. Meanwhile, customer support's going, just working like normal. They have no idea that maybe there's an issue. So in this example, maybe the support team is using MS Teams and development teams are using Slack. So being able to, provide information across the silos can really help keep people informed.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen when that doesn't happen and how hard that can be when a certain team needs to know, but isn't necessarily in the loop. So I'm sure that's really useful.
Sure. Yeah, I get caught off guard. It's never fun. So as we mentioned, we did post the alert into Teams as well as Slack. So I'm just showing the alert, and it looks like, it's been having some issues for a while. So
yeah,
I'm going to go back to it is really broken. Let's go ahead and fix that. So we're going to pull the OCRAP handle and hit the sev one. If I can hit, sorry, hopefully that was the right button. And we're going to hit the sev one. So sorry, I cruised over that. So our response options are down here. So these are available across all the different devices. But once I have this information, I can then take action on it. So maybe I just want to mute the monitor. Maybe it's not really a big deal, but this is a DICE game. This is a pretty big deal, and it's been having some issues. So I'm gonna pull the OCRAP handle and declare a sev1. So again, using our Flow Designer UI here, I've built out a handful of actions that we can take. So this is where we get into the incident, response framework. So I've mapped out a couple of different responses that do different things in Datadog. But the ones that are really interesting are these two down here. Maybe I want to trigger a rollback, maybe do a rebuild, redeploy using CircleCI. In this case, I've chosen declare sev1 because we need to get some people on this, ASAP. So I've got a Jira issue. We create a Slack channel. I found in working with customers that having a dedicated Slack channel provides a way for everybody to kind of put information, and then all the information related to that issue gets put into that one channel. It really helps with the post-incident reports so that you can go back into, see the chat history, see what people are doing, and then and it collects all that information there. So we're going to post just a link. Sorry, go ahead.
That's really convenient because it looks like just immediately when you clicked that from xMatters, I was automatically just added into that Slack channel. I didn't have to do anything or talk to anyone.
Yeah, let's go check that out. So here's our new Slack channel. I did post a message in here. I can probably enrich this a little bit better, but we got the original information from Datadog. We did create a Jira ticket. So while Rebecca seems to be typing, I'm guessing she's doing some research there. So I can pop into Jira and say, oh my gosh, sweet, here's our issue, right? So nowhere in there did you see me log into Jira, copy and paste information from Datadog, hit OK. We've already got the issue generated. In this case, we actually have the xMatters integration set up, so we're paging out another team. But let's see, Rebecca is looking into it. Awesome, good job. There's a K in awesome. I don't know if you knew that, but.
Oh, good for us. I think I found the issue.
Really? Awesome. Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we got some automation, but I'm just going to copy and paste this for now. I'll throw this in here. My computer's in the way. Okay. So we got some additional information. So at this point, I can go ahead and maybe resolve the issue, maybe start my post-incident report.
Yeah. So I see that like what we've done really is we've created a Slack channel where I was automatically just added. I'm able to be like, okay, I'm looking into it, look into it. I find the area where it seems like this issue is arising. I send that to you. You're able to put that into Jira. And now like we're able to kind of get through that resolution. So what are common things you see your customers and people do to just remediate all of these issues that come in?
Yeah. So, the playbook applications, Ansible is a good one. So, allowing people, giving people a list of maybe runbooks that they could execute on a mobile device is pretty powerful. And again, it's not just like a distribution list blast, to people.
Yeah.
It's actually this person, has the capability and the knowledge, and they're currently on call, so it's their problem. They can then, then they can choose a playbook, maybe an Ansible. xMatters will go reach out in Ansible and execute that playbook. Similarly, I haven't actually done it personally, but Rancher or Anthos as well can be used there.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah. So at this point, then we can resolve, and then start our post-incident reporting.
Yeah.
Cool. Let me find my slides here. Cool. I found them. So
Awesome.
Wrapping up here, go ahead on the deploy side.
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously we just got done with Travis's aspect and demo and how xMatters works, but just to remind you about the CircleCI piece, right? The deployment, we really, really, really recommend that end-to-end testing. So implementing really, really good test suites and iterating upon your testing is imperative for the security of your deployments. Pushing to Docker registries, the ease of that keeps those nuances and intricacies out of the way. So just having that easy process that CircleCI offers can also give you that safety and just ease of mind. And then those approval steps. This is imperative, extremely important to making sure that we add in that human piece, right? Everything's automated, but we want to actually just take a moment and make sure that what we're deploying is exactly as we expect so that we don't have these issues. And if we do, obviously, xMatters is there to help you. And then, of course, just as an application in architecture, multi-cloud and hybrid cloud in themselves innately are secure, and they provide that safety of lack of vendor lock-in, the flexibility of knowing that if one of those cloud providers were to breach or your own database were to be breached, you have those resources available, giving that ease of mind in all of your deployments.
Safety and security. So from the operations side, it's critical really to get the SLOs and SLIs in place. Otherwise you're kind of just making up metrics that you think that might be important, but may not actually align with either the business requirements or the operational requirements of keeping the application up and running. Help using the golden signals kind of as a guideline can really help. A lot of these are just trying to make sure the application is running. There might be other signals, that are important to your application. So those are important to identify. Again, working with product management and SRE teams can help work that out. And then the detection tools to monitor the application deployments. Make sure that they have that overarching visibility into the on-premise as well as the public cloud environments. And then, providing some context to the alerts. Sometimes I'm sure, everybody who's been on call just gets that alert and you're like, what the heck is this, man? Or,
Yeah.
I really wish that I have to go log in or something like that. So trying to gather that information and then provide that to a resource to help cut down that incident resolution time can be critical. And please, please, please don't use distribution lists. It's always the finger pointing of, well, he was going to get it. No, he was going to get it. And there's no real audit trail. So use an alerting application. I'll plug xMatters, but there's other alerting applications out there, but we do a free for 10 users. You can set up your on-call schedules and, get people in there. So just please don't use distribution lists. And then finally, use automation hooks where it makes sense. Set up a lot of automation is critical, and it's going to get your applications up and running faster. But don't forget that there is a human component, that is a lot of times really critical to make a decision or make the higher level functions that are important to the application. Cool. So I hope that was helpful to everybody. But we would love to have any questions. If anybody has questions that they would like to get answered, we can
All
see
right.
about addressing those.
Yeah, we've gotten some questions in so far, but there is plenty of time. If you guys have a question for either Travis or Rebecca, please go ahead and use your GoToWebinar control panel and send it on in. Let's go ahead and get started with the first one. What are you doing to embed security throughout our projects and deploy model? What's the security quality bar for deploy beyond function/feature ready?
So if they're asking more so from CircleCI standpoint, we definitely recommend just kind of taking advantage of different third-party tools that work to test your applications. Also continuing to manage like how you deploy, so what you're using. You know, with my application, I'm definitely utilizing Kubernetes and making that easy to scale. So there are a few aspects that we definitely recommend from that side of security. What you also do with your application outside of you know, feature testing and stuff, we can definitely talk about best practices and those use cases that we recommend.
Rebecca, what kind of security applications or like the security tests have you seen? Have you seen that?
Yeah, so I've seen some tests where people will actually try doing like they'll hack into their own applications. So
Like
those application tests. What'd you say?
Like a penetration test?
Yeah, so they go ahead and just act that out, kind of like I was saying with that end-to-end test, right? You can add in a lot of different aspects there to see how does your application run when it's being vulnerable like that. Also, just like the error we saw, we're hitting that error of timeout errors. So testing that and the ability to see how much your application can actually take, kind of speaking to what Travis said with Black Friday, and you should expect a lot of traffic, but is your application ready for that? So working through testing for that as well.
All right, great. Next question here. Let's see, what are your methods for purging your GitHub or Bitbucket repos of unsafe open source and libraries with high or critical vulnerabilities?
Ooh, so are you, I guess can you ask the question again?
Sure. What's your method for purging your GitHub or Bitbucket repos of unsafe open source and libraries with high or critical vulnerabilities?
I think that's going to be a product of the repository tool itself. So a lot of, I know GitHub does a pretty good job of identifying, you know, open source libraries that have vulnerabilities. I certainly got a couple of those notifications. Yeah, so kind of on that proactive side, you know, I think once you start into the deployment process, you know, at that point, it's almost too late. There might be some other tools that might be able to help with that, but I would say that your first point of contact would be the repo tool, and making sure that you choose one that has that functionality.
Yeah, and also kind of, you know, when I first started the demo, we saw that security job that ran first, right? That was a scan. We're just doing a security scan in our application, making sure that what we have is what we expect, right? And so, for example, when I was actually building out this demo, I added in Datadog, and Datadog was not set up properly in my application, and that security job wouldn't even pass because it was like, what is this dependency? You don't have it set up correctly. We're not going to even give you checks. Like, you can't build the application. So just implementing that from the very start, and that's a real life thing. Like, we wouldn't even be able to demo this if I hadn't had that job and understood what was going on. So putting that up front, after you do take care of your VCS, putting in jobs like that before you even build can prevent these vulnerabilities from getting out into your deployments.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Plenty of time, guys. If you have a question for Travis or for Rebecca, please go ahead and use that GoToWebinar control panel. Next question. Is it pretty easy to set up the deployments with CircleCI?
Yeah, great question. So setting up deployments with CircleCI, kind of like what we said, it can seem like a lot is going on, but we definitely ease that process with what we call orbs. So CircleCI has these reusable configuration files that you can just plug into your config. So you can actually go ahead and take this template of deploying to GKE or deploying to AWS, and just put in a few lines of code into that config, and it really does ease that deployment. So you're not having to kind of reinvent the wheel. So it's a lot more seamless than it can seem when we're talking about it. We just ease it all.
So going back to the security aspect, were there any particular orbs you used in your security test?
In my security test, no, I didn't use any specific orbs in my security test.
All right. I love the orbs. I read about the orbs all the time on Container Journal.
Yeah.
Orbs are awesome. And DevOps.com. Okay, next question. I noticed you can get Slack notifications with xMatters. Can you with CircleCI?
Yeah, that's another great question. You can. So you can actually, again, like we're talking about with these orbs, you can easily integrate with our Slack orb. And so let's say on the CircleCI side, we've gone through this entire process and we've gotten to the remediation step, everything's been approved. Well, maybe the engineering manager who is asleep while all this is happening wants to get a Slack notification that someone has approved a job in CircleCI. They want to know, even if it wasn't them approving it. So you can easily give that Slack notification over to the people that will wake up in the morning to see what all happened in the middle of the night. Gives them that visibility.
Surprised they don't stay up all night for that stuff. I don't get that.
I know, who needs to sleep?
I get deployments to watch.
Yeah,
Right.
my dice game could break.
I got paint to dry. I gotta watch this. So okay, all right. So still plenty of time, guys, for questions. If you do have a question, please just use your GoToWebinar control panel and submit it. I have one more question here, and then hopefully we'll get a couple more in. So here we go. Can xMatters, this is interesting. Can xMatters create a conference bridge?
Yeah. Ouch. Sorry.
You all right? Got so excited about that, huh? Yeah, what a great question.
Love conference bridges. So part of that collaboration aspects, getting people into a Slack channel. Some organizations, really require like a conference bridging. So pulling in, either stakeholders, sometimes they like to drop in on conference bridges. I don't recommend that practice usually, at least having, people on open-ended stakeholders for jumping in. But sometimes conference bridges can really be productive in getting people, actually talking. Sometimes, context is missed in chat, or, you miss some of the nuances in human communication when you're typing things. So the conference bridges can really help things, the collaboration process streamline. I would say, like I said, stakeholder communications, I think, should not happen on conference bridges. I think that's more for, that can be an email. You're not responsible for fixing this issue, so you can get an email, or jump into the Slack and talk to the scribe or something, But yeah, we can definitely invite people in a conference bridge. We can make a phone call and say, press 1 to join the bridge, and then you can instantly be added into there.
Excellent. Okay. Well, that is all the questions that we have so far. So, or thus far. So we'll see if we get any more in. And while we're waiting, I do want to remind the audience that today's event is being recorded. So if you miss any or all of the event, or if you just want to watch it again, you will have the opportunity to do so. Following today's webinar, we are going to be sending an email that contains a link to access the webinar on demand. The webinar is also going to be living on I believe it's the DevOps.com website, so you can always go look for it there. Just go to DevOps.com/webinars, look in the on-demand section, and it should be right there waiting for you. All right, one last check of the questions tab, and we have not received any more questions in, so I guess we're going to give people about 15 minutes back in their day. But before we close things out, do want to do the drawing for the 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Yes. First winner today, let's see, is Jeremy M. Congratulations, Jeremy.
Nice
Next
job,
question.
Jeremy.
Yeah, Paul. Next question is, or next winner is Rob S. Congratulations, Rob.
Oh.
Our third winner is Paul P. Congratulations, Paul. And our final winner today is Ken B. Congratulations, Ken. We'll be following up with all 4 of you offline via email to get your gift card over to you. If you don't see something in your inbox, please check your spam folder. Rebecca and Travis, great presentation. Thank you so much for your time and for the demos. We love the demos. And appreciate everything. Expertise, time, demos, we love it all. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks, y'all.
Also want to thank the audience for joining me today. This is Charlene O'Hanlon, and as I said, I'm giving you 15 minutes back in your day. Hope everybody has a great day. Please stay safe.